You'll probably make a full screen now.
Yes.
So read the first sentence, which means please mute your mic. And then I think we can start. It's also good to mute your camera, but it's not necessary if you want to be visible. Okay, welcome all to the webinar about boosting your agri-food digital innovation hubs. This webinar is specially prepared for digital innovation hubs. I assume that there will probably also a few SMEs. There were a lot SMEs in the registrations I saw, but it's really for us a way to at least to tell all the digital innovation which are in our network, to explain how they can support and consult the companies in the best way. But if you want to know more about digital innovation hubs, you are free to join. But the focus will be on digital innovation hubs, which play an important brokerage role between SMEs and the upcoming open call of agROBOfood, but also guiding SMEs to the best success, from idea to success. So if I can have my next slide. Dimitra, next slide. Yes. Because my name is, by the way, Erik Pekkerit. I'm also the network coordinator of agROBOfood. I'm working at Wageningen University at Research as the program manager on agri-food robotics. And I'm also the regional cluster leader for Northwest Europe. So I have different roles. And I thought it was a good idea to have this meeting now, because I would like to do some expectation management about the open call. We did a round through our regions, and we see a lot of proposals are preparing for this open call of agROBOfood. So we expect 50 to 100 proposals, and we can only grant 6 or 7 proposals, which mean that only 10% will receive funding. And there's a huge effort going on to preparing these proposals. And as Digital Innovation Hub, I think we have a great responsibility to help them also if the proposal is not granted. And the way we could do that, that's, I think, the main topic of today. So think ahead. What are the opportunities for the DIHs to help these companies who are preparing very good proposals? In my region, I see very good, perfectly proposals, but I'm pretty sure that we will not grant them all. And it would be a pity if we do not take this opportunity as a digital innovation hub. So we have the good company, we have even a good plan, and now we cannot bring it to a success. And that would be a disaster also from the perspective from our network. So I think it's also the responsibility for each DIH who is now involved in direct contact with SMEs that are preparing a proposal, to engage with them when their proposal is granted or not. So when we know what when the final outcome is there, is very important to contact your submitters. I think it's also to stay in contact now, also to do the expectation management to them towards them. So prepare the best proposal you ever did, because otherwise you will not receive funding. But also discuss already with your companies, what will you do if the proposal is not granted? How can we help you? I think that's one of the main issues also for this topic today. And we will show our network services to you today, and also in the weeks, months that are coming. So we are here as a network to help all these submitters to to make a success out of their proposal when it is granted or not. In some cases, it's important to reshape the project in another way. So also discuss this with your SME. And also organize other ways of access to finance. And we will give some ideas in this webinar, but I think these are the main issues of today we would like to address. And there's also an important role of the regional cluster leaders. If you do not know the way, please contact your regional cluster leader. You see the picture here next to the words, and you see that we have 7 regional clusters. And if we see next slide. Oh, first we have the agenda. So this is the agenda for today. I did the opening. I will go through a few Q&As that are that I faced, which probably are good to mention. I also can tell that there are more Q&As, but I will come to that later. After that, we will go to Ireland. They are in my region, and I noticed that they are very helpful towards quite a number of SMEs preparing proposals. They are doing it in a very good way, I think. So I would like to show them as a good example how you interact with your companies as a DIH. So bring it to a life. Then we will go back to the core consortium members who worked on ecosystem services, business services, and technical services. So that will be done by Wageningen, Eurocat, and Fraunhofer. Mireia, and Amat will take that topic. And then Jos Balendong, a colleague of mine, will also discuss a plan what you can do when a proposal is not granted. And after that, we have half an hour to discuss Q&A and have an open discussion how we can be a very good DIH for our network. So also between DIHs towards each other, but also from a DIH to the SME to help them in the best way from an idea to success. Next slide. So now my second topic is to give the latest insight and relevant Q&As about the first open call. Next slide. And I already start in the stage where we are now. So we have 38 project partners. We also have 55 as associated partners, but now we see that our network is growing. People would like to be part of the agROBOfood network, which we very much like. So at the current stage, we have already listed 120 digital innovation hubs in Europe, active in agricultural robotics, and also 200 competence centers. You see the direct partners of the 38 listed with all the logos here. And if you are an associated partner or a new upcoming digital innovation hub, you also should access to the full list of digital innovation hub. It's at the moment it's still in XLS. You can access via the portal of what we are using internally. You can also see different kinds of services. We have a portal in Basecamp, and you also can see the different services which are provided by the different digital innovation hubs. You have contact persons you can contact, and that's at least how you can come to contact with different stakeholders. Next slide. And if you do not know the way exactly, or you do not have access, you can contact your regional cluster leader, and they are listed here. You see at the bottom you see the picture with the countries. If you are in the UK, Ireland, Belgium, Luxembourg, or the Netherlands, you will come to me. And for the other countries, you can look at this graph, you can look at the website, who to contact, and they should be able to provide you more detailed information and how you can get access to specific documents which are provided through the whole network. Next slide. So we are now still, we just passed, I think, the first year. So we are at the moment, the first year was building the network, building the services, bring all things in place, the all open call. I think we have done most of it now, so we can now slowly start loading the network with digital innovation hubs, loading the network with best practices. We are also preparing a portal for the innovation experiments. We have the direct innovation experiments, but we would also like to offer other projects to showcase their project via our website. And so we are loading the network with lots of services and information. We already made some deliverables about standardization regarding robotics. So I think a lot of things are available. And if you contact your regional cluster leaders or if you have your regional meetings, you will know more. And at the end, in the last year, we will hopefully show all the innovations, try to deliver the success of the network, and also to try to make the network as sustainable as possible. So we expect that there will be a continuation after the 4 years in as a standalone sustainable network. Next slide. So we are now heading the open call. First open call will finish at 1st of September. Then we know exactly how many proposals have submitted. And very soon after that, we already will grant these proposals. And I think end of October, beginning of November, you can almost start your project. Next slide. And if you are in the middle of preparing a proposal, you should know that it's very much targeting success. So we are looking for proposals with high TRL levels. So no research activities. Part of the project should be the execution of some technical things, but the business part should also be part of your project proposal. So it is very important that you really reach out to at least to achieve a status where you can commercialize your outcome, commercialize towards venture capital or towards sales of robots or systems. So if you are too much at the beginning of your projects, you probably are, you will probably have more difficulties to get granted. It's useful for that reason also to interact with the end user so that we have many stakeholders in the proposal. Transfer of services of technology is very important also to engage with the network. I will come back to that later. And consortia of one SME and one end user as technology provider is possible. Collaboration should be at least between 2 European countries. So that's about the innovation experiment, and that's the first open call heading to 1st of September. And then short after that, we will also start the industrial challenges call, where we are aiming for real industrial problems. We have an industrial advisory board. They are targeting the industrial challenges, and based on that, we will set out the call, but that's not for now. That will be published, I think, end of this year somewhere. And that's a little bit different approach. So I will not take too much time for the industrial challenges. I would like to focus today to the open calls regarding the innovation experiments, the interaction with the small and medium enterprises, because I think that's the main role of the digital innovation hubs. Next slide. So what will be the process? And if you have visited a few other webinars about our open call, you probably already saw this picture. So we are now in the middle of increasing awareness. We formalize and we publish. So that's what we did now. We are now at the stage of submission. We do a check when all submissions are there, and then the evaluation will be done by two external evaluators remotely. They will give a score, and based on that score, we will come to a final conclusion. And the evaluators have more or less the same information as you have and as we have as Digital Innovation Hub. So don't try to impress your Digital Innovation Hub because they are not involved in the evaluation. On the other hand, for that reason, Digital Innovation Hub are completely free to help you in the best way to get your proposal done. Then there's the final selection of accepted proposals. And of course, there's some negotiation to get the contract signed. And then the funds will provide it. It will be 30% by the design, 40% by the development, and 30% by the market. And it's the money will come at once in 3 stages. Okay, next slide. So I would like to provide a little bit insight about the Q&A and the questions I receive as a regional cluster leader. And yeah, there are some miscommunications or misunderstandings about the call. I think when you are preparing a proposal with your SME, it's very important to keep in mind what was the goal of agROBOfood. So not the main goal is provide money to SMEs. The main goal is to build a pan-European agri-food robotics network. And if you want to do that, it's very important that there is engagement with the network and that we can test all our services, not only technical services, also business services. But also the proposal should interact with the network, or at least a number of stakeholders which are relevant for the agROBOfood network. So it's also a requirement to engage with the DIH. You have seen it, but it's also important that you explain in your proposal what you are planning to do with the network. If you state that you are not need the network, that's perhaps not handy. But on the other hand, it's also not good when you have a lot of open ends in your proposal. So I think the primary stream of the execution of your proposal should be done by the consortium. But there are probably a few items which the network could be helpful. It could be promotion, it could be listed best practices, or helping with standardization. I don't know, but these kind of services could be provided by the Digital Innovation Hub network. And please try to give attention to that in your proposal. Because our role is to make a sustainable Digital Innovation Hub network in Europe. Also, a lot of questions raised, why targeting SMEs and why not the big companies of the research institutes? And can research institutes be a subcontractor in the proposal? We just follow the subcontracting rules also provided by the European Commission. So you have to align with these regulations. In that regulation, it is possible to subcontract also a research organization, but then again, think about, and it's no problem to do a part of that project by a research organization if you follow the subcontracting rules. But there's one issue you always keep in mind. Probably competence centers or research institutes, they know the way normally in European networks. And we would like to target at least the SMEs who are searching and who need to use the network, and what we see in many projects where a lot of research institutes are involved, everything goes via the research institute. So if you are planning to do that, make sure that also SMEs interact directly with the network of agROBOfood. And how they do it, that's the way you think about it, but because that's the reason, that's where the money should go. So that's really the target group of our project. SMEs in most cases do not know the way very well, and for that reason we targeted it in this way. So interact with the network. Next slide. Then I have a few Q&As, and these Q&As are also listed on our website, and we have a more extensive list of Q&A dealt by the regional cluster leaders, and the regional cluster leaders can even share this list. So if you are not have access to this list, ask your regional cluster leader and you will get access to that list. I have listed the 4, but there are, I think, almost 100 now. But I think these are quite important. Can large company, non-SME, participate as subcontractor in a proposal from SME? So my apologies for the typos, but this was directly copied from our list. So any kind of organization could be subcontracted, but evaluators will assess the scope and value money aspect of subcontracting. And their assessments will be reflected in the score of the proposal. And then, of course, you have to be aware that you have to follow the Horizon 2020 subcontracting rules. Next slide. Another question, is there a fixed hourly rate that we should calculate, or should we fill in the table in another way? And the answer is you should calculate personal cost in the way that works best for you. For the personal template, only the final amount allocated to personal cost is necessary. We will not ask for the hours at the end. It is lump sum. We will provide the money in 3 stages. Next slide. Are the 300, 500K 100% reimbursable? Yes, the amounts that will given as lump sum, which means that no receipts will be asked, and the amount agreed upon in the contract will be paid according to the schedule in 3 stages. However, all third-party beneficiaries are obliged to follow the same standard as Horizon 2020 projects as defined. So it is very important that you also fulfill your duty and that you deliver your deliverables. If you are not delivering your deliverables, we come to some legal issues and legal discussions, and then it will be then you will come to a discussion. So how did you spend your money? And to be to avoid that, but in the basics, it's not required. Next slide. That's it. And all other questions are listed also at the website. Please have a look there. There's an extensive list dealt by the regional cluster leaders. Digital Innovation Hubs could get access if you are registered as a Digital Innovation Hub in our network. If you are not registered yet, contact your regional cluster leader. This is it. So I would now like to give the word to Christine. If you have questions, please ask your questions in the chat. I forgot that. Christine, are you there?
Bear with me. I literally 2 minutes ago, I had a power in my house, so I had to grab my laptop and reroute closer to the router because it would take longer to get set up again on wired. So I've been working online all day, no problems, and this happens. So yeah, and I just had to banish the kids and the puppy from the kitchen.
Okay, but you were right on time. It's your turn now.
Okay. So thank you. If you want to just proceed to the next slide, please. My name is Christine O'Mara. I am a commercialization specialist, breadth commercialization specialist with the Telecommunication System and Software Group. We are a research performing organisation. We are part of Waterford Institute of Technology. And I suppose ICT is our general domain of expertise, but we have knowledge in AI, AR, VR, network communications, all of those areas. And then we work with specific domains. We work with health, transport, and of course, agriculture is one of our big domains. We do basic research and applied research right through to contract R&D with companies. So I'm actually seeing the slides slightly merged. So hopefully I'm seeing the right thing. The role of that we see it being a digital innovation hub with agROBOfood, we saw in terms of supporting the open call, we had three responsibilities. Firstly, to promote awareness of the opportunity to SMEs and startups in our area. Secondly, to help interested applicants understand the requirements and understand if they were eligible or not. So essentially to filter all inquiries so that we ended up with a pool of eligible and interested applicants. So next slide, please. In terms of actually promoting awareness, we did this primarily through our social media channel. We promoted the open call in our weekly newsletter, through a news item on our website, and through our social media channel, among others. Next slide. And we also had a dedicated webinar, and I suppose this was the most successful tool for us in recruiting applicants. We targeted it at RPOs in our region that had similar competency centres to ourselves and also complementary competency centres. We targeted it at government agencies, funding agencies like Enterprise Ireland, at consultants, the kind of SMEs that support proposal submissions, and also at the SMEs themselves. Reached out to a large number of people. We got some direct interest from the SMEs participating, and also we got some referrals through the government agencies. So we found it was a really useful exercise just to recruit potential candidates, if you like. Next slide. And we had a lot of inquiries, and really, I suppose one of the big inquiries was, is it worth my while to participate? What is the probability of success? And, you know, we really didn't know if it was 1 in 5 or 1 in 10. And I suppose based on the conversation that we're having now, it could be as low as 1 in 20. And we would agree with Eric that it is important to underline that, you know, the probability of success, you know, it's quite a competitive process, and that people have realistic expectations about the chances of securing the funding. TRL, the technology readiness level, was another area of discussion, and certainly, you know, some conversations resulted in SMEs or startups in particular ruling themselves out for this particular round anyway, because their technology was at too early a stage. Other questions that we received were around eligible expenses. You know, one company in particular who will be putting in a proposal were concerned. They wanted to do an innovation experiment in a number of different countries, but they were concerned at the cost of that, because the cost of putting capital equipment in place would largely be borne by them. Yes, depreciation costs would apply, but there would be quite a large expense to be borne by the SME. So they were trying to balance a wide-ranging innovation experiment with that cost. Eligible activity was another question that we had, and we had quite a few people questioning whether farmers qualified as SMEs. So that was kind of some of the range of inquiries that we had at the early stage. Next question, or next slide, sorry. So, you know, after all of those inquiries, we've primarily been supporting 4 SMEs, and there's been a huge diversity of use cases. We have somebody concerned with pasture management, an SME that is focused on bovine reproductive health. We've got vertical farming, and we've also got poultry production. But it's not just the kind of solution or the product where there's great variety. There's a huge breadth of founder expertise. And, you know, based on the founder expertise, we are supporting some SMEs more than others. Some have greater needs. So we have what I would call potentially an accidental entrepreneur. they're primarily, their main business is farming, and they have come up with a technology solution based on a problem that they experience every day, but it's not their core business, so they may need more support than we have an individual who has set up a company who's a former venture capitalist, and he's very used to securing funding, scaling businesses, etc. We also have what I call the kind of code ninjas, or the tech set, a group of individuals who are extremely code savvy. There's no doubt that their solution will be highly innovative. And then we have kind of a group that really have deep scientific expertise, but they maybe somewhat need a bit more support on the business side of things. So really there's a breadth of use cases, but also a breadth of founder expertise, which can be interesting and challenging to support. Next slide, please. And I've experienced the application journey in 3 phases. This is how I've broken it down. And I think the first phase is really helping, this whole funding effort is about supporting an innovation experiment, designing that experiment, executing the experiment, and then commercializing or promoting or disseminating the results. So that's been where part of our effort has been focused. And going to be judged and rated, and how applicants stack up against those scoring criteria. And then the final part is, well, this is where how an applicant looks on paper. How can we help shore the gaps, if you like? Next slide, please. So we came up with a template to help our applicants, where they needed to define that innovation experiment, because in conversations with SMEs, I felt like, they're very passionate about their solution, which is great, but they're trying to solve a huge range of problems, and almost is going to solve world hunger, world peace, etc. And we wanted to bring it back to, I suppose, something that was definable using the SMART criteria, if you will, something that solves a very specific problem in a very specific way, something that's measurable, something that's achievable, something that's relevant, and something that has clear, distinct work packages and a plan that will work within the time frame of the project. So we designed this template based on different resources that are out there, and it's about creating these hypotheses that you're going to test. And it's also about thinking about what success looks like. What exactly are you going to measure? What are the KPIs, and what do you hope to achieve? Because I think having a strong definition of that innovation experiment will help have a strong proposal. Next slide, please. So the scoring criteria themselves, I feel that there are 2 dimensions to it. There are the official, very well explained scoring criteria, which is, all about the topic coverage, value for money, the cross-border impact, the business impact, the kind of level of innovativeness and openness, if you like, of the technology. So, we've had lots of discussions about the different aspects of that, and we've had questions around how do I demonstrate value for money? What does that look like, or what can that look like? So we've been helping people evaluate how they stack up in terms of the official scoring criteria, but we've also been very conscious of the unofficial metrics, if you like. And I suppose how I put this is that this funding is coming through agROBOfood. And agROBOfood itself has a hypothesis that actually having this network is useful. It adds value, and it can help drive the adoption of robotics in the agri-food sector. And how does it do that? Through the various services, through the network effect. So there's a kind of an unofficial dimension that's really important to consider in the submission of a proposal, and we've been trying to emphasize that with our clients as well. Next slide, please. And, from there we look at plugging the gaps, and it's what all of our partner DIHs around Europe are doing. If somebody is lacking expertise in a particular area, we put out matchmaking requests, or if there's queries that we're not quite clear on, we'll put that out to the network. So there's been, as you all know, there's been a lot of activity going on in Basecamp, and it's been really, really useful to get the perspectives of different DIHs and of the people running the open call. Next slide, please. And just briefly to touch on one of the companies that we've been working with. It's a Cork in the south of Ireland. Cork-based company. It's a company called ReproDoc, And they have their main, I suppose these guys have deep scientific expertise, and they have a range of scanners that monitor gestation and reproductivity indicators in cattle. And what they are developing is an automated solution for interpreting scans, because right now doing a scan and interpreting a scan is dependent on skilled technicians being available to do those tests and to interpret them. So they're automating that with a view to driving actions faster that can improve animal health and improve outcomes. So we've been working with those, and as we've looked at their proposal, we saw that I suppose they have a great depth of technology, a very innovative offering, but they needed help with identifying users. They needed help with networking in different jurisdictions, and they also needed business help. So, you know, the gap assessment, I suppose, revealed those areas where they've been able to leverage the agROBOfood network to connect with different entities that could strengthen the proposal. Next slide, please. And so we put out a matchmaking call, very similar to the others that you will see on Basecamp, describing the concept and identifying the areas of expertise or the types of entity that ReproDoc would like to work with. And from that, we have connections into different business organizations in the Netherlands, different veterinary groups in the Netherlands, and veterinary groups in Ireland. So they've been finding that a really useful exercise. And finally, I suppose, you know, Eric has been emphasizing, and it's becoming even more clear, that the competition will be extremely tough, and how we're using the final weeks to the deadline is to help review proposals. And, you know, with the caveat that, you know, we're not going to be judging these. We're reading the submission criteria. Sorry, I have an 8-year-old bursting into the room. We're reading the submission criteria, and we are interpreting it, and we're clarifying any areas that we can, but we do have a certain amount of expertise with projects and all of that, so we can help as much as we can. But also what I'm doing with my contacts is just making sure that they are aware of other opportunities that are out there. While the Irish National Ploughing Championship has been cancelled this year, there's still competitions. The Innovation Arena competition is still going to happen in an online format. Smart Agri-Hubs has a number of open calls which may be applicable for SMEs. So I am making sure that they're aware of other opportunities. And then going forward, I'd like to help the unsuccessful applicants to leverage the network in other ways, to promote their work through case studies or through, you know, different opportunities that may come up, perhaps presenting at webinars, etc. So that's kind of a whistle-stop tour. Hopefully it's been useful.
Thank you, Christine. I propose to immediately continue with, I think, Mireia.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Mireia Dilmé from Eureka Technology Center, and we are leading the task regarding how to define service procedures regarding the supporting services that will be offered to all the SMEs that are applying to the innovation experiment and the open calls. It's important here that we will mainly discuss about the services that the DIHs are providing to the SMEs, not the services, the supporting services that the network, the agROBOfood network, will provide to the DIHs. Okay, so we're going to start with the first slide, please. Okay, perfect. So what are these supporting services? Mainly these supporting services are small, complementing services that they do not replace a core activity of the experiment. We will see later that these services are classified in different categories: technological, ecosystem, and business, but the main goal of them is to support all SMEs that are part of the innovation experiment and industrial challenges to expand as maximum the impact of those experiments. Okay, so the beneficiaries of these supporting services are initial innovation experiments, and industrial challenges. And also it's important to highlight that even for those SMEs that weren't granted for their proposals, they can also apply for these supporting services with the normal market approach that they would have, so paying the normal prices, etc. Then regarding the providers of these supporting services, small complementary services, are DIHs and competence centers that they are already part of the agROBOfood network, so that all the 39 partners that are already part of the consortium. But it's also important to know that all these providers will be enlarged, so that all SMEs and all competence centers and DIHs that aim to be part of the service provision and aim to be part of the agROBOfood network will also be included through the open calls as service providers do for these supporting services. So next slide, please. For these supporting services that I'm discussing now, you will see it much more in details and you will be able to consult all of them as we have created some service catalog for each of them, okay? Now, at present, the service catalog is an internal document and we will move in the coming weeks it to a PDF document for all of you to consult, for SMEs, for digital innovation hubs, etc., to know what can be offered through the network. Okay, this service description catalog, it must be said that it's not a closed document. So whenever you find SMEs that maybe you don't have one service that you would like here and you would like to have it offered through the agROBOfood network, please just state, and we will be able to accommodate it if possible. If we have the resources, if we have the knowledge, etc. So be aware that this catalog is a living document and it's aimed to support you as much as we can. So next slide, please. Okay, and what is the procedure for these supporting services? How can we ask for them now that we know that this catalog will be sent to all of you, available through the agROBOfood website? So the procedure is that whenever an SME aims to ask for the supporting service, they will need to contact their mentor DIH or competence center. So the mentor DIH will act as the one-stop shop in order to access all this information, okay? So here we have included a list of the initial innovation experiments, so that you know more or less which will be the mentor DIHs. But of course, when we have the initial experiments and through the open call, the industrial challenges, the mentor DIHs names will change and you will have allocated one specific mentor for your challenge. So next slide, please. Thank you. This mentor DIH that you will have contacted will be the one in charge of coordinating with the service moderator and the proposed service provider. So you will see it later that we have defined the supporting services into 3 categories: technology, business, and ecosystem. And for each of them, we have one specific service moderator. So from Hofer, from Eurecat, and from Wageningen. Okay, and here you have the names, but the service moderator and the mentor DIH will be the ones in charge of submitting the service request. This service request, so they're saying that you have difficulties understanding the acoustic. Is it possible? The chat, are you hearing properly? Yes, okay, perfect.
Yes, we hear you.
Thanks. So maybe we can continue with the other slide, please. Okay, so this is just the procedure for you to know when an SME will contact you as a DIH to provide the service, how it will work. So the SME speaks with the mentor DIH and then says, look, I want to ask for a supporting service. Then what happens? If the mentor DIH is able to provide this service because they have the knowledge, because they have the infrastructure, they have the skill, and they have the resources, they will be able to provide it so the service can start. What happens if the mentor DIH at that time, they don't have the right capacity, the resources left, etc. Then the mentor DIH, what they will do is that they will pitch the service request to the agROBOfood network. So if we can, next slide, please. Move to the next slide. Okay, perfect. So then when they pitch this request of the service to the mentor, all service providers will be able to reply to that application. If only one provider responds, the service will be made by that service provider and the service can start. What happens if more than one provider responds? In that case, the mentor DIH and competence center together with the service potential service providers and the SME asking for the service will define and will decide what is the best provider depending on the amount of quotations that they received. So each service provider will have to position itself, offering a quotation on the terms, how they will offer it, etc., etc. So out of all the offerings, they will be able to decide. Once they know which is the defined service provider, the service can start. If on the other hand, at the third column, no one responds when pitching this service request, then the mentor DIH will work together with the service moderators and with the requesting SME and define again the service request, or try to see on a case-by-case basis what is the best approach on how to solve that. So it's likely that the request may need to be changed, be more detailed, more comprehensive, etc., etc. It's uploaded again, and other providers reply to that request. So next slide, please. Okay, perfect. So this is just a screenshot of the service request that will need to be created and will need to be uploaded and completed by the mentor DIH. Okay, and it's also important to know that we will monitor this process to make sure that, of course, that the service have a good quality level, are conducted on time, etc., etc. So we'll have some assessment questionnaires before, well, in the midterm and at the end of the service provision. So next slide, please. Okay, so just for you to know, okay, there will be an established calendar on when to ask these services. These services should be requested and agreed before the experiment ends, okay? But it's important also to know that they can be provided not only during when the experiment is being conducted, but also some months after the experiment ends. Let's say not 1 year after the experiment ends, because you will see that in terms of effort, the services should last from 5 person days to maximum 3 person months. So we could expect that these services could last and could be executed around 2-3 months after the experiments are finished, after the proposals are finished, so that you can make the most of the impact of the services. Regarding how many services per SMEs would be available, we can say that per SME, they would likely ask for around 1, 2, maximum 3. Okay, because it depends a lot on the effort spent per each service. Some of them, for instance, are taking into account one example. No, if you have a market assessment, one example could be a primary research. So you only consult with statistical data sets, so Statista, Market by Market, Gartner, and you present a report. This would be a 5 person day service. But also in the same category as market assessment, we could have interviews, we could have a more comprehensive and more detailed market assessment that could require 1 person month. So in that case, the range is quite broad, and you'll be able to see all this information in the catalog and with the one-to-one conversation with the mentor DIH and with the service mentor too. So next slide, please. Okay, so and this is just for you to know. Now we will talk a little bit in detail on what services, as an example, you can see that are included in its category. The first one, ecosystem services, business services, and technology services. But here it's important to highlight again that if you find in the catalog a service that you believe you would like to ask for and it's not available, just raise your hand, speak to your mentor DIH, and we will try to accommodate that request when possible. Okay. So let's start with ecosystem services. And now Mireille will start explaining.
Yes, hello, I'm Mireille van Hilta. I'm working with Wageningen Research. And I will be your contact for the ecosystem services. So feel free to contact me, well, actually, through your mentor DIH, of course, as Mariah just explained. So the ecosystem services, I'm not seeing the full contents of the slide yet. So if we can maybe click again, great, thanks. So there's 2 services that we have initially available for you. And they're both aiming to further build the community. And the first one is the Dissemination Package Plus, which is the very cool name that we gave it. And the other one is the Matchmaking and Brokerage Service. Next slide, please. Oh, I thought, yes, there were 2 slides coming up. So the matchmaking and brokerage is really for you when you are seeking a partner working on the next innovative project that maybe has to have specific expertise. We can use the network for that. And so that's basically what the service is for. It's a tailored service for you. We want to match competences and skills. We can either do this in an active way, which is non-public, keep it within the network, or we can do it in a more passive way and just publish your request. And the outcome will be that we will set you up with one or more of the partners that we found for you. Next slide, please. The Dissemination Package Plus service is to help you reach out to your audience to promote your solution or your innovation. We will be working on a dissemination plan, and which will be done together with your local DIH. And the outcomes of this will be some sort of showcase PDF. It could be on the agROBOfood website, but could also be a brochure or a pitch, a newsletter, perhaps a link to one of the videos or an article. So it really depends on the solution itself, and it's more of a customized service. That's it for now from me. Moving on to the business services.
Correct. So in terms of business services, here are just some examples of some of the services that we have included. Okay, some relate, for instance, to funding opportunities, both private funding opportunities or even public funding opportunities. And this can go from just a small report on potential agencies that can provide this funding, or even supporting you in the writing or providing recommendations and preparation of the documentation required for each funding opportunity. So the person will change depending on these efforts, but the range is very broad. So, and this also includes private funding opportunities such as VCs, etc. Then other examples can be business model innovation boosters regarding how to innovate certain parts of the business model, how the technology may affect your novel revenue streams, etc. The pricing. Then business plan development support. It can be done through workshops, through different methodologies, for instance, lean startup methodologies, business model canvas, customer journeys, etc., etc. So we have all of them prepared, and we can support you in that sense. It can also support you in defining your digitalization strategies. So taking a close look on how is your digitalization efforts going on, creating a maturity assessment on how you're doing on that, providing you with some resources, assessment on how to better manage your digitalization efforts, providing support in terms of IPR management, conducting freedom to operate studies, or even advice on how to patent some results, etc., etc. And of course, the market assessments that we mentioned, primary research methods, secondary research methods. This is just a sum up of some of the services that you will be able to include in this business category. Even, for instance, sometimes supporting you in finding partners with whom to create projects or collaborate, or even service providers, and etc., etc. So these are some of the business services. And now we will move on finally to the technology services with Ahmad.
Ahmad, ready to go?
Ahmad, are you here?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ahmad Isa. I'm a senior scientist at Fraunhofer IPA Institute for Production and Automation in Germany. And I'm the regional cluster leader for Central and North Europe. So countries such as Germany, Austria, Czech Republic, and so on. We are responsible for the competence center part of the project, competence center network. And what we are trying to do is provide different types of technology services on top of the services that are usually provided by digital innovation hubs to their end customers, whether they are SMEs or other companies. So usually a DIH via competence centers, they can provide contract research, technical support on scale up, strategic research and development innovation, some testing and validation, and so on. On top of that, what we're trying to do is provide other types of services and help the digital innovation hubs and competence centers help provide support to the SMEs, for instance, through standardization. Standardization for us plays a key role in the uptake of robotics technologies, as it can help to enhance the European competitiveness, growth in innovation, support quality, performance, and protection for the consumers, for the business, for the workers, and so on, and to develop interoperability of the network and associated systems. So the introduction and development of sufficient and mature standards for robotics in the agri-food domain can support systems developers, SMEs, as well as end users, with a set of common rules, and thus help them quickly improve adoption of the technologies, as well as improving the quality. So this service will work on two approaches to the technical standardization. On one hand, it would encourage the use of standardized and open source technologies by the robotics agri-food community and end users through defining the standardization needs across the domain in general, and also the proposed or the granted experiments in particular. On the other hand, the service will contribute to the current standardization landscape through the analysis of the results of the experiments and the identification of the contribution possibilities, and supporting DIHs and SMEs in order to do so. Furthermore, a list of standardized hardware and software platforms that are supported by the Digital Innovation Hubs network would be provided and will be continuously updated as these platforms evolve. Other types of services include access to testing facilities through the mapping, pan-European mapping of capacities and capabilities and complementaries. Functional safety assessment, for instance. So it's an activity usually performed by a competent senior engineer to determine if the safety system does meet the specifications and actually achieve the functional safety. This assessment is very important part of reducing the systematic failures, and this must be performed at least after commissioning and validation. So this also a type of support that we provide with this. So yeah, other types of services can be technical feasibility of these of the solutions that are provided through the granted proposals and so on. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ahmad. Eric, I would like to hand over to you the questions that are raised in the chat and not answered yet. Is that okay?
Yes. Not wait for the last presentation of Jos?
Oh yeah, that's okay, of course. Yeah, I'm sorry.
We will wait for the last presentation of Jos Bralendonk, and then we will immediately go into the questions. Yes.
Okay.
Jos.
You can all hear me? Good afternoon.
Very well.
Okay, thank you. My name is indeed Jos Bralendonk. I'm from Wageningen University and Research. Within the agROBOfood project, I'm responsible for the building of the agROBOfood network. And I want to conclude this workshop more or less about telling what you can do as DIH when a proposal is not granted. Yes, please. First, I think we have to be aware, and it's also related, I think, to a lot of questions you have. The DIH yourself is responsible to take the follow-up on this. You are the contact for the SME, so the DIH should take this up and follow up. But the question you have, and I see a lot of them, why should you support those SMEs in these proposals? Well, for sure, it will help the SMEs, of course, in creating more business opportunities. It will also help creating more business opportunities for the other members in the project plan, in the network, because we want to have them in the network, of course. And this all builds a stronger network, agROBOfood network, and it will help in the end the sustainability of this network. But if this network is strong and is sustainable over the years, this will eventually also create more business, I think, for those member DIHs and competence centers in the project or in the network itself, of course. So it's great importance that we all put effort in this, helping these SMEs in their proposals on agROBOfood domain. Okay. I will go over the procedure more or less as 5 steps and in time. And the first step, and I repeat more or less what Eric already said in the beginning of the project, we need to do expectation management before the submission. So this is the time now. The open call, as said, was highly competitive, and the chance of being granted is only maybe 10%. So the proposal should be of great excellence, and we all must be aware that this is the case. And I think you can inform the SMEs as a digital innovation hub upon that, so that they know that this is happening. Okay. The next step is that if the proposal is submitted, you can think already about what will happen or what you can do when the proposal is maybe granted, but especially when it's not granted. So you can think ahead about what you could do, and in case the proposal is, for instance, already of good quality that you think of. So you can look for other funding possibilities, international maybe, or higher national goals. You can think of private investors, all this kind of funding possibilities there are to fund the similar project. We want to support this from the agROBOfood network itself by collecting all these options and to make a sort of a list which is also then available to the other digital innovation hubs in our network. So please, if you have funding options available, which are public available, please share them with us and we will put them all on the list so that everybody can take advantage of this. But please think ahead about what will come. Then step 3 is once the results are of the review are available, these results will be communicated to the applicant SMEs, of course, and that will be communicated also the moment that that the review is finalized to all the digital innovation hubs. And that means that you are aware of the exact moment when the SMEs know about the results. So that's the time at which you can contact the submitter, the SME, and to schedule, for instance, a meeting with them to discuss what you could do and what the next step should be. For sure, if a project is granted, you can make an action plan on how to start that project together with the SME. But in those cases that it's not granted, you can start the discussion how the SMEs would like to proceed with it. And there's, I think, a lot you can discuss, of course, because first you have to look, or you can look at the review results. Why was the proposal not granted? And the reviewers will probably be precise on their judgment. So there's a lot you can read and to improve. And then you can make an action plan to amend the plan and to seek possibly other funding sources for the projects. Yeah, you can reshape that project so it hopefully can start in another way. And by doing this support to the SME, you can think of the terms as we presented in the services of the agROBOfood network we have. And we have a catalog about these services. And I want to explain you how you can access it in the next information. You already heard that there is 3 types of services available in the network. It's ecosystem services. So on the network level, we have technical service in blue here, and we have business services in green, more or less. We call these the Rodin services, but that's not needed to know. Within these services, we have several types of services, as you can see to the left. In ecosystem, you can have community building, strategy development, and so forth, and others for the technical and business services. Within all the services categories, there are a lot of activities the digital innovation hubs can perform. And when it's about looking at the non-granted proposals, there are a number of services that are typically helpful in reshaping these proposals. For the ecosystem service, the community building is of course the most important part, because if you need other partners, maybe in the proposal we can provide you with matchmaking facilities. And the other services that are most important, I think, are the business services. For sure, there is the service important to access finance, because that is the main question. Where can I get finance, and where do I find other funding sources? So that's an important one. And then when it comes to the project itself, the contents, then help with writing project proposals is important. Seeking other opportunities, writing the proposals, and also creating the consortia, which also the matchmaking can help. For sure, there are a lot of technical services, but maybe at that stage they are lesser important. But yes, for sure, there are, if you want to find competence centers that have the expertise on specific technical services, you can find them also through the catalog we have for that. Okay, then the next slide, please. Step 4, and that's where the agROBOfood network actually comes in place. I think we have a network because we also want to help each other through this pan-European network. In the application, there is a cross-border partner, and I think you have to connect also with that cross-border partner to deal with the proposal and work and improve it. And you can use the whole agROBOfood network to help you with the business and ecosystem services, and those are the ones I explained before: the matchmaking and the fundraising. And for the matchmaking, you can have a look into our digital innovation catalog to find the right partners and the service providers for specific services. And this could be a direct contact, as I would say, because in the catalog you find a name, an email address, and if you don't want to tell anybody else about what you are looking, you can direct contact a specific partner with nobody else knowing. The other way of communicating is, of course, by bringing things more in the public, and for that you can use our communication facilities. The regional cluster leaders, they have email lists available for their regional cluster. So if you would look for a partner in a regional cluster, you just send an email request to this email list, and then all companies and digital innovation hubs connected to this list know about your email. You could also use in Basecamp or Campfire facility to connect, and for sure you can issue your message European wide, because you can connect to all regional clusters. So there is a way to do it more private, so as a direct connect, or do it in a public way. For fundraising, you could, for instance, connect with digital innovation hubs already having connections with partners that do have knowledge about fundraising capabilities. And if you have your own connection to regional or in your own country funds, or to local investors, you could try to contact them. So assistance from the agROBOfood network. Yes? Please, next. Just to help you a little bit, finding the catalog of all the digital innovation hubs and the services that are available. This catalog is maintained on Basecamp, and we maintain the latest version on that, so that is where you can find it. If you don't have, as a digital innovation hub, connection yet to Basecamp, or you never tried it, please inform myself or Miriam Strauss about that, and tell us. If you have the connection, please look at this catalog and see if the data for your own digital innovation hub is correct, because there is lots of contact information, of course, and also information about all the services that digital innovation hubs can provide. And you can see here to the right part of the Excel file, which is available. You can either download it on your own PC and just browse this Excel file. There are columns and there are rows and there are specific items. You can see that things are organized in a region, in a country. We have names, and we have all the services in the 3 types thicked, as you can see over there. And this information was harvested a half year ago during the needs assessment. And if in case we have put a 1 there, then this specific services are already available. If there's a 2, then this service is this Digital Innovation Hub or Competence Center is thinking of providing this service. If there's a 3, they think they will in future provide it, and if there's a 4, they don't have it and they are not interested in so. Most of the data is available, but there is still a number of Digital Innovation Hubs that did not fill in this form yet. So I'm asking those to do so or connect with me to update this information. But if you have this Excel file and you have a specific question, and for instance, I marked here a connection to funding source. So I selected this column and I put this in the Excel file, and then you see a list of about 15 digital innovation hubs that have somehow a connection to funding sources. So you can sort it, or you can select a country or a region or whatever to find the most near source for this. So that's the way you can use this Digital Innovation Hub and Service Catalog for helping you in connecting with people. Okay? And then we have the last step, step 5, is you could also request assistance from the, not from the network, but from the project agROBOfood. And that is in the agROBOfood project can assist you with providing services and organize events. And one of those events we are thinking of is, for instance, to pitch, to have the SMEs pitched their proposal to investors and maybe funds and so forth. And we think that the regional cluster leaders can help you in organizing this on a regional level. And within the project, these regional cluster leaders have some budget. It's limited, but they have some budget to organize these regional events. So in case the SMEs or the digital innovation hubs involved want to organize or they want to pitch something, please contact your regional cluster leaders and say that there is interest. And if there is a substantial interest, then they can try to organize this type of events and to seek other funding. Yes? I think, but I don't know, that this is slide 55, which Jose would present.
Yeah, hi, Jos. This is Jesus speaking from Eureka. So just to complement to what you were saying, so in terms of providing support to non-funded proposals, so most of it has been said already. I mean, no secrets here, but from the network, we are working on gathering private funding opportunities. And as Jos said, from the regional clusters, we have some resources to organize some actions to that respect. So the exact form that this will take, this is still to be decided, but there will be some support in accessing private funding. With respect to public funding opportunities, here we, as a network, are well connected. We're connected with twin projects that provide also cascade funding. So through our communication channels, you can also get to know about other funding opportunities. And also, we also invite you, and we will be promoting existing funding opportunities that will be coming in the next European, let's say, innovation ecosystem, such as the Green Deal and Horizon Europe. Yeah, and mostly that will be all. So all you again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think this was the last slide. Am I correct? Yes, thank you. So we have now time for questions. Josje, have you?
Yes, I think Amat is doing a great job in answering the questions raised in the chat. So almost all questions are answered. So I think we can over to the open discussion.
Yeah, I see a few questions. I also was following it a little bit, but I also was listening. So one of the main questions I see here through the lines is, how are digital innovation hubs reimbursed for supporting the projects? Or can they only be reimbursed by subcontracting to the projects? Well, and what I would like to add to the remark of Amat, I think to the answer of Amat, which is very good, is that the initial goal also of Europe was to use digital innovation hubs who are already taking up this role. And Europe would like to see this role connected to competence centers. They are in line with companies, and they are helping companies, and they should also help companies in a broader network. And that's so. Also, we as a network will not receive direct funding for digital innovation hub work, but we receive funding to build up the network and deliver services. So I think that's the basis of these kind of digital innovation hubs. And so to speak for Wageningen, Wageningen is a digital innovation hub for many networks, and we are trying to align also to many networks, although we are not always partner in this specific network, but we would like to engage with the network. So it should be from value of you. If it's not from any value of you, don't take part of the network. But if it has value for you and your ecosystem around you, yeah, you can connect, and you can connect via the website. There's a submission button where you can connect. That was at least one answer I would like to, one question I would like to answer. So, and Ahmad did all the others, so thank you. But if people are not satisfied, please come forward, ask your question.
If the answers are also not very clear, please let me know so I can clarify more.
Yeah. But you can speak up now. So we are not, the group is not too big. So if you have specific questions, you can come forward. You don't have to use the chat anymore.
What I would really encourage you for your specific project or for your specific experiment or proposal, to contact your RC leader, to contact a digital innovation hub, so you can clarify some of those questions as well for your specific case. Because here we are talking a little bit in terminology that is a little bit general, tech provider, end user, and so on. However, if for your specific experiment, for your specific case, the RC leader would be there to discuss with you the specifics and clarify any questions you have.
Are there any questions? Please come forward. If you don't dare to do it in the meeting, you can use the chat.
I would, Jos is this, I would like to have a very simple household question. Is everybody connected to Basecamp, all the digital innovation hubs? If somebody isn't, please make it known to us, because Basecamp will be used to share from the network all the things we want to support you with. So over time, we will develop tools and lists and all this kind of help you get from the network, and we want to share this in Basecamp. So that's the primary issue.
Yeah, so only digital innovation hubs do have access to Basecamp and a few innovation experiments which are already part of the project, but they don't get all the access. So you have, we can select the access you would like to, which is required for your digital innovation hub, and that gives you a lot more insights, more information than. So that's also your unique selling point, that you have more information to provide to your SMEs.
I see a question, somebody from Ukraine. They don't have a local digital innovation hub that they can connect to. We have done a needs assessment study, and we try to obtain information about the white spots we have in Europe. So we are aware of the fact that not every country yet, and I saw also Malta as one of the countries, that in all the countries yet is a representative digital innovation hub. We noticed this, and we want to actively work on this to find and seek digital innovation hubs that are interested in this domain. For the moment that in a specific country there is no digital innovation hub to contact, we would urge you to contact for sure the regional cluster leader. So for Ukraine, who would that be?
That would be us as Biosense. So Stasha speaking, and I'm already in touch with Roman, who is asking this question. So exactly, this is the path.
Yeah. So if there are in Ukraine possible candidates as a competence center or a digital innovation hub, we would like to hear about that, and then it's the regional cluster leader that can try to engage those digital innovation hubs to become member in the network, and so we want to build on that.
And already see also the question of Rebecca answered by Miriam Strauss, so she will provide access to Basecamp. So that's very good.
I have maybe a naive question. How you can start a digital innovation hub in a place where you haven't one, or you have one which is too far away from your area? I mean, agriculture region cannot map exactly to the general national region.
Well, everyone can start a digital innovation hub, so that's the good news. But of course, you need to also to be known and to interact with the region. So I think you can appoint yourself as a digital innovation hub. Fill in the list, your requirements, what you already do and what you cannot do. And the more active you will become towards the network, the more you learn about agri-food robotics and become more and more active. And then you hopefully will start to engage with a few of your SMEs in your region, which are building robots, and you try to showcase them to other regions. And I think that's basically try to do it as organic as possible, because then you are a real one. So then it is really going to happen, and also approach it from the practical side. What is what you need? What is what you don't know? Interact with the network. That's where the network is for. And we have a lot of information, of course, listed in our website, but much more information is listed in all the research institutes, which are willing to help you and interact and engage. Join meetings, learn, and the more active you will become, the more active your digital innovation will be. We have two mechanisms to evaluate a digital innovation. Jos, we hear your nose. We have two processes to evaluate your digital innovation hub. As you've seen on the website, your customers can evaluate your digital innovation hub if you are a good digital innovation hub, because they can provide stars to the service they received from your digital innovation hub, and they can also give a written review on your digital innovation hub. I hope, and we will encourage in the coming years, we will encourage customers to do so, so that there is a track of how good this digital innovation hub is on agricultural, food and robotics. On the other hand, we are also working on a maturity test. So that's coming from the project. Also to evaluate yourself. It's a self-assessment tool to evaluate your digital innovation hub. And we also have a better view on what the specialty is of your digital innovation hub. And then you will be more known and recognized as a good digital innovation hub. That's the approach we are now following. So everyone can be a digital innovation hub, but don't. Be aware that if customers are not satisfied, they will put it on the website.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Other questions?
There are two other questions from Lauren. How can we dimension the services that could be provided by the Digital Innovation Hub during an innovation experiment? Cost, budget, provider, and can the SMEs choose the provider who will be in charge of the service?
Mireia, can you answer that question?
Yes, okay, I already answered it just now in the chat, but mainly when deciding this cost, budget, etc., it will be a one-to-one case analysis depending on the efforts that are required for its service, depending on the outcomes that each company aims to have, if it's a report, if it's a mentoring, if it's a more comprehensive effort in terms of person months, etc. So it will be a one-to-one case analysis, and also based on the past experiences from previous services offered, more or less in a correlated budget that it's in line with other services offered through the network. So with this, you will have to discuss it together with your mentor DIH and with the service mentor too. And also regarding, you also ask if the SMEs could choose a service provider. Yeah, for sure, the SME will have the final decision on which of from the list of the service providers that will reply the request to choose mentored with the mentor DIH and with the potential guidance that the mentor DIH will provide to the SME. The SME will at the end have the final voice on deciding which is the best service provider according to their case. Okay. So
good.
That's clear.
Does this answer the question, Lauren?
Yeah. Is it clear, Lauren? If not, we can provide further details.
Laurie?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Good. Final questions which are not answered, please come forward. If not, I will close the session, and you are always welcome to reach out to one of the regional cluster leaders to provide them an answer. And yeah, the more practical your case is, also the more specific the answers can be provided. So make it alive, come up with your agricultural robotic problems, and I'm quite sure that we have a very good network which should be able to align the best partner and answer for your question. Yeah, thank you very much. Hope to see you. Mireia has one question.
Can I just answer one
yes.
last question? Yeah, they are saying that when you ask for the proposal, when you are submitting the proposal, you don't know who will be the supporting service provider. So how we can include that in the proposal stage? You only need to mention which kind of supporting services you would like to receive. But these are just potential foreseen services that you may receive. You don't need to have a service provider for the supporting services. It will be discussed after the proposal is granted. Okay, and it will be negotiated and it can be edited. Even though you said in the beginning that you wanted a mentoring service for the business plan, then you will be able to change it. It's just for us to monitor early and to know a little bit the efforts that we need to allocate on that. Okay.
Yeah, but you can already make some. You have contact with your digital innovation hub during your writing the proposal, and you already can interact on a few specific services. Yes, that is also possible.
You can provide the names of the providers that you would like, but it's not mandatory, let's say.
No, okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Okay, then this was the final answer. Thank you very much. Hope to see you all again when we have a face-to-face meeting. We still need to launch our big kick-off, but due to Corona, it was not possible. But we will invite all the digital innovation, of course, to a big face-to-face meeting, and hopefully more online meetings will follow, and you will be invited. Thank you all, and if you have specific requests, please come forward. Thank you. Have a good holiday, and hope to see many proposals.